Story 1, the old Pizza Hut, the one from the 1990s. That atmosphere, that taste of the freshly made pizza arriving as you come back from the salad bar. That stained glass overhead light. God, I miss it. Story 2, fat Sunday newspapers. Growing up, my family would make waffles or pancakes on Sunday and spend hours passing around sections of the newspaper and drinking coffee. Story 3, my Roland rat pedal car. I was 6 years old, and some heartless person stole it from my front garden. 34 years later, and I'm still upset about it. Here's what it looked like. Story 4, PB Crisps. Celebrity Deathmatch. MTV that actually played music videos, along with pop-up videos on VH1. Robin Williams, John Candy. Good, original movies routinely coming out in the theater. Affordable everything. Story 5. Cheap rent allowed people to have passion project stores. Stores that sold nothing but hot sauce, or only rubber stamps, or cat-themed tchotchkes. You could make a living just selling cute things you were passionate about. What a time to be alive. Story 6. McDonald's play places. We used to have one by my house that was 90% play place and 10% McDonald's. It was the perfect place for birthday parties, informal family gatherings, or playdates. And all it cost was the price of food. Story 7, Chuck E. Cheese, exactly as it was at the time in the mid to late 1980s. It was its own vibe. The vibe, the sounds, the entire experience was all-encompassing. Most games were still a quarter, with very few being so bold as to demand 50 cents. The lighting was dim, and it was such an escape. I got to go every Friday night for a while as a reward for staying on top of things at school. It was my happy place. My parents loved it too because they got to hide in a booth in a rear corner away from everything, and I could make $5 last all night, or at least long enough before pestering them for another dollar or two. Modern Chuck E. Cheese is a shallow husk of what once was, entirely devoid of any of its original charm. To say I loathe what it's become would be an understatement. If I were to learn of a single untouched location in the heart of some random Midwestern state where it was a perfectly preserved time capsule and everything was as I remember it, I would make a pilgrimage of it and I would revel in the nostalgia. My only fear upon potentially experiencing it as an adult as it was would be whether or not I truly do remember it as it was. Rose-tinted glasses can be all-encompassing. Story 8. Safety. I walk around the area as an adult, but for the most part nowadays, kids are driven to and from school and sports events, can't ride their bikes to their friends' houses, and can't go door to door to sell popcorn, Boy Scouts, or cookies, Girl Scouts. But this was when I was in elementary school. Once I was in junior high, things started becoming more unsafe. Story 9. One of my earliest memories is the bakery truck that drove slowly down the street, exactly like the ice cream man. The truck played a jingle, and the whole back opened onto shallow pull-out shelves filled with fresh baked bread, donuts, cookies, and pastries. My brother and I would always go buy something in the summers when there was no school. Story 10. My great-grandparents. They loved me unconditionally and passed away when I was 17 and 18. Grandpa was from India, and Grandma was from the South. They had some of the best arguments and cooked the best food. Just thinking of them makes me feel warm inside. Story 11. A true four-season climate. Summer lasts too long now. I remember the first time my birthday, January, was warm enough to go outside without a coat, in 2003 or so. This happened a lot more since then. Story 12. Being able to look forward to the future and just how much of it there was. Time just zips by, folks. Be sure to stop and take a breather from time to time. Story 13. Not having a care about anything or anyone, just loving life without any worries or problems. No anxiety or stress and stuff. Growing up really makes you want to be a kid again. Story 14. I started buying and collecting comic books when I was 7 years old in 1970. Batman, Superman, Justice League, and others. While I was overseas with the Army in 1983, my mother threw all of them away. I don't like to think about how much money there could possibly have been, but I had some first editions, and they were read once and went into separate bags and were kept under my bed. Story 15. The ability to eat anything and everything without worrying about cholesterol, triglycerides, sugars, weight, or genetic predisposition. Ugh, being an adult is challenging. Story 16. Back when I was 8, my friends and I used to stay on the school playground for hours after school, trading Pokemon cards and playing on the playground. Story 17. A toy moose that I threw on the back of the donation truck because I was upset with my dad. I regretted it the very next day. I was 16 and I still slept with plushies. He's been dead 2 years now, and I've been thinking a lot about that moose every day. Story 18. YouTubers not constantly saying like, comment, subscribe, or 90% of you aren't subscribed. Back in early YouTube, a YouTube video was either just the content or they'd leave subscribe for the very end. Story 19. All of it. I didn't appreciate it at the time, stopped telling the story, but everyone who knows understands why. Honestly, it's the only true home I've ever had and the only family I've had who raised me better than my biological parents could. Those were dark times, but the best in retrospect. Things never really got better, only worse in different ways, with less and less future hope. Home. The only house or dwelling that's truly felt like it, but only in retrospect. Why do we never have fun in the moment or enjoy the present? We only look back and say to ourselves, that was fun. I enjoyed that. If I had 3 wishes, that would be one. Aside from stuff going on now in my new area, there's one person I'm here to catch if they fall again, but I'm hoping she'll be fine. Otherwise, what I want is my childhood back to enjoy it this time. Story 20. Saturday morning cartoons in your pajamas until golf came on or infomercials. Then playing Atari until you got bored and then riding your bike for the rest of the day until sundown. Going to McDonald's as a special treat and getting a Happy Meal with a toy. Also getting home from school and watching Transformers, He-Man, and GoBots. Story 21. Ignorance. I do think that being an adult with knowledge and maturity is a great thing, and I love knowing things. However, being ignorant of all the terrible events in the world, whether it be small things that only exist to make me angry like TikTok drama or rage bait or actually terrible things that the internet is known for sharing, I feel like it would be so much better without knowing that stuff like I did as a kid. Story 22. Back in the summer, they had lodges, family-oriented vacation spots including 3 meals a day and activities. Most of these spots have been converted to high-end vacation spots with restaurants, with everything having additional charges. Story 23. Ho-hos wrapped in foil. I think they were better back then, also bigger, and I remember they could be unrolled too. We also seem to have been less afraid back then. In 2nd grade, I am walking to the park half a mile away without any adults. Story 24. Playing outside and enjoying it. Another thing, I swear when I was younger there was a cheese-flavored instant ramen. It was either Moroccan or Nissan, and the packaging was orange. It had a flavor packet and an oil packet. I have been searching for this for several years and have no leads. Story 25. Breaking balls and no one got really offended. Until you really crossed the breaking balls line, which would usually get you socked, and you learned an immediate lesson. Story 26. When I was a kid in the early 2000s, there was a Blockbuster right next to Caesar's Pizza. I miss my dad taking us there on Fridays while my mom was at work. Story 27. I mean the old school metal big supposed death traps. Those were really fun when I was a kid, but they started taking them off playgrounds because supposedly some kids got hurt. I don't recall anyone getting seriously hurt, but whatever. I would love to get on one with my kids and spin it as much as possible. Story 28. The old video rental store near my house allowed you to rent games from any time period, up to the latest ones, for the same flat fee until you beat it or until a month was up, whichever came first. Story 29. Baja and Tropical Starburst. Candy companies were trying a lot of different things back then. You had so many different Skittles and Starburst flavors, those combination juicy fruit gums, grape melon and strappleberry. I can only taste them in my memories now. Story 30. Rice Krispie Treats cereal. Frozen pizza with stuffed crust, but inside is pizza sauce instead of cheese. Those Kool-Aid type drinks in clear soft plastic bottles, usually with some weird funny faces. Dunkaroos or whatever, rectangular cookie crackers that you can dunk in sugar sauce of choice. Story 31. I want to play a solid game of capture the flag or freeze tag. I want to feel that rush of serotonin without worrying about how long I will need to recover from the exercise. Story 32. I got a Superman game CD when I was in third grade. My dad bought it when he was on an office trip. There was no occasion. He got it for me. I consider that as the first gift I received and the only gift I got that was solely intended for me. I did receive gifts after that for my birthdays, but all of them were for my sister and me combined, and my sister always received a separate gift on her birthday. Because games were considered bad, they gave it away when we moved to another city. Story 33. My mother passed away when I was 8 years old, 66 years ago. I remember things about her. She was very much involved in the lives of my brother and me, active in our school, church, and other activities. I have the Bible that my grandfather gave her on her 8th birthday. I found that she had drawn little birds, resembling small M's, on several pages. My grandfather's heart was broken by her death. He died of a heart attack 1 week later. Story 34. Returnable soda bottles. Aside from cutting down on plastic wrap all over the place, when I was a kid, I used to walk down the highway to the little country store. By the time I got there, I had picked up enough of them to turn in for a bunch of candy and gum. Story 35. The daycare center I went to when I was really little and the wonderful people that worked there. It was closed a long time ago, and I have no idea where all of those awesome teachers and employees are now. I miss them so much. Story 36. Tie-in toys for every movie made are available at every store. Most stores now only sell the mainstream stuff of the year, and all the good stuff is overpriced at comic book stores. I miss being a little kid and buying Mortal Kombat toys and pretending like they were riding my Dragonheart toys, while my Predator toys teamed up with my Independence Day toys to shoot it down. Story 37. Drove my dad crazy, but I would draw elaborate cities for my Matchbox cars out on our sidewalk. Except I did them in crayon, so they lasted all summer. By the time school started again, I would have the entire sidewalk and half the driveway covered. Friends would bring their cars too, and we would be out there most of the day. Only the winter snow was enough for it to wear away. Story 38. My dad, he is still around but doesn't care about me. He was a lot nicer to me when I was a kid, but he pretty much ghosts me and ignores me. I haven't called him in years because I got too tired of being the one to always have to put in the effort, so he just ignores me and treats me like I don't exist. It doesn't help that I got angry at him because I got injured, and the rag he gave me to stop the bleeding he took and got it blood tested to see if I was even his kid. Story 39. Less social media. I'm 23 and seeing the brain rot my younger siblings are exposed to, and I see myself seriously, is concerning. At least in the mid-2000s and before that, you'd go outside and play with your friends all the time. I feel old. Story 40. Affordable housing. Innovation. We went from almost nobody having a home personal computer to nearly everybody having a smartphone with internet access in their pocket. But now, I don't see as many new things, just newer phones, tablets, or personal computers that are faster, have more storage, or have a better camera. Toys and games that weren't just character-themed remakes of previous toys and games. Toys and games that are fun to play and don't need to be based on a TV series to grab kids' attention. Captivating book series that people will want to read before a movie is made from them. Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, Aragon. As a younger kid, I enjoyed other series too, like the Magic Shop book series or My Teacher is an Alien, both by Bruce Coville. I also enjoyed Encyclopedia Brown and Bunnicula and Wayside School. And, of course, the Choose Your Own Adventure books. Maybe it's just me, but I don't see anything new that is anything like what I used to enjoy reading as a kid. Story 41. When I was a kid, I had Nintendo and Sega, and those things were taken from me. I ended up going to the local public library just to find books with craft ideas or origami or anything. I even took out a book on making holograms and seriously read it to see if I could do it. I was able to acquire a laser. Another time, I was just exploring paper and styrofoam airplanes. I had no styrofoam, so as an 8-year-old, I went to the meat department of the supermarket and asked if they could spare any styrofoam trays, and they always did. Anyway, you can do anything if you're determined enough. Story 42. Fancy hot dogs with the skin. Decadent chocolate mousse cups with chocolate chips. French garlic bread pizzas that were handmade in the supermarket. and you grill them when you get home. Story 43. Grew up upper middle class as a child in the 80s. Always had unlimited snacks at all times. I miss Kudos bars, Jello pudding pops, soft batch cookies, and Crystal Light. I could go on. Summer was 3 months off, not like my middle-aged kids who have 2.25 months off. Story 44. Freaking seesaws. They are even still on the signs that mean park nearby. But there are no seesaws anymore because these days parents are more concerned about not letting their toddlers get head injuries. Cowards, I say. I want to see a teeter-totter again in a park before I die. Story 45. My mom, 1922 to 2014, and dad, 1919 to 1989. I would give anything, everything to have them still here, strong and healthy. My dad died far too young at 69 years, and my mom lived far too long, 22 years without him, dying at 91 years. She was bedridden for the last 10 years of her life and effectively had very little life at all during those years. Anything, absolutely anything. Story 46. Getting up early on Saturday morning, watching Looney Tunes, and eating cereal in my pajamas before anyone else in the house got up. Peak antisocial behavior there. Story 47. Getting to fly for free. It was awesome having my parents pay for our flights when we went on family trips together. Seeing how expensive flying is now really made me appreciate flying for free, not having to pay for myself as a kid.